All right, and hello, and welcome to the Grindhouse. I am JC, your host, and tonight we're here with Bryce,
Hello.
Gwen, and Terry. And GM Mike could not make it this evening, so we hope to see him and hear his GMing tips for next week, hopefully. So it looks like Dana's in the chat. And Stream Elements is as well. Although Stream Elements always pisses me off because they'll say, "Hey, we'll monetize you." Let's see here. Give me one sec. Well, anyway, we'll monetize you, and then you go and you sign up, and then suddenly they don't monetize you. So, or they'll go, "We're sorry, that offer passed." And you're like, because there was one for
Why
Star
did you
Trek.
offer it me?
Yeah, there was one for Star Trek missions, and I went in and actually set up OBS and did this whole thing so it can look Star Trekky and all that. And then I go back and they're like, "Oh, we're sorry, you missed out on you missed out on things." So it definitely does suck. So tonight we are going to be talking about World of Darkness. That's our primary topic. Um, Actually, I wrote down what our actual other topics were on the thing, and I completely forgot what they were. Yeah, it's just been one of those nights. I just came back from a convention, so if you want to see my review on that, you can check it out on our channel. But yeah, my brain's a little befuddled. So, World of Darkness. I know Gwen has a topic. Gwen, what was your topic?
It was basically random encounters,
Okay.
inspired by the Spider-Man game.
Okay, awesome. I know Terry has a Kickstarter for us, and we'll just get into random weirdness. And just note to Dana, yeah, I mean, if we get to a point where we just kind of do some open talk, I'd be happy to send you the link and have you come on. And yeah, no rants. All right. So let's actually get into this week in gaming. So let's look at a little porn. Well, no, not really. All right, that's always thrilling. Even though it's interesting, if has any of you ever been to Amsterdam?
No.
I definitely have not.
No. All right. So yeah, it's I don't know. Like I don't. I think I'd be actually afraid to go to the red light district. It's I don't know. I mean, as much as I like to sit here and talk about porn and here's this porn collection, when it comes to things like actually a red light district, I'm like, maybe not. Um, so all right, Dana, we could talk about Amsterdam a little bit later in one of our topics. So I kind of want to get through some of our initial stuff. So this week in gaming, well, I went to a convention and ran an old space game called Alternity, which I had a blast. It was pretty fun. Two of my players, this was their first con experience, and their first time really playing a con game, and they had a great time. So that just made me feel really good about it. I finally got to play against the Dark Master after buying a copy for ridiculous prices out of Italy because it sold out in the U.S. And actually, some of the game designers were there, so they ran it, had a great time. It's inspired by MERP and Rollmaster, so it was like the chart book. It's like, all right, cool, you made your hit. Let me now look at this chart to see where you hit. Let's look at this chart to see how well you criticaled. Let's roll this chart to see what critical got done. And this chart, and it was just like several charts later, you actually got something accomplished. And I got to play BattleTech, which I think was also kind of really fun after not playing it for a long time. But that was pretty much my week in gaming. We'll go down to Gwen. Gwen, did you get any gaming in this week?
Not tabletop stuff, but
Okay.
I splooged a bit and got No Man's Sky. And
What-
Yes.
What's that? Tell me. I'm unfamiliar with it.
Really? You're unfamiliar. So No Man's Sky was launched like 6 years ago,
Okay.
and as basically like nothing, because the studio had lost basically all of their stuff because of a flood, and they were like, "Well, we have to launch this game at this time because otherwise we're going bankrupt." So they launched it, and it was like barren. There was like basically nothing in the game. But it was supposed to be like a spacefaring adventure sandbox game.
Oh, they promised the world. Yes.
Oh yes, and over the next 6 years, he actually fulfilled that promise with like monthly or like bi-monthly updates, and now it's like this whole like massive I don't want to say open world because it's more like open universe game, and it's a lot of fun.
But so is it science fiction? Is it fantasy?
Yes.
Is it
Science
yes?
fiction, yeah.
Okay.
Imagine what Star Citizen is promising to do, and they're actually doing it.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, there was a game that I was playing on. So I look at my Steam every once in a while and go, "What's that game?" and then download it because over the past 10 years, I have just bought up just games because they sounded interesting to me. I think I mentioned one on stream that was called like Honeycam Studio, where basically you play a pimp who is you're training women to go be cam models, and in the game you have to send them to the liquor store, you have to send them to like acting school and all this other stuff. And anyway, and I was like, oh wow, I don't even know why I bought this. And then I'll just leave it here at the name of this game, and I think it was called Breeders of the Nephilim, which I think I will just let your imaginations take over and imagine what this game possibly is. So
What could it possibly be about?
Terry, what was any gaming for you?
Nope, just my writing life. No gaming.
Okay.
Cats.
There you go. Well, I mean, you should just, I don't know, it'd be cool if you just trained your cats to like play. Then you could just sit there at a table, you'd have all your cats around you. I don't know.
Yeah, but can you imagine how that would work out? It wouldn't, because they'd get annoyed, they'd knock the miniatures off the table, you'd tell them to take damage, and they'd scratch you. It just would not work out.
Kind of like regular gamers.
Yeah.
Pretty much, except these would be more teethy.
Yeah. They don't have quite the strength to flip over the table.
Yeah, my cat, my newest kitten, Lucifer, has managed to make several minis disappear off the dining room table, and he's already lost at least 5 of my new Conan dice.
Oh,
So he
little
is
stinker.
he is enjoying gaming. Bryce, anything in the gaming world?
Tabletop wise, no, because I live in the Bay Area, which is obviously a tabletop barren wasteland. Nobody games there. I have been, like I said, I've actually been bumping into No Man's Sky also, which oh yeah, it's amazing. It's probably one of the greatest comeback stories ever. If you're ever into video game developing, I think there was YouTube essay on it called "Yes, Woman's Ground," that was specifically of the whole thing of because the guy got the developer really just got ran through the dirt because he sounded like some pie in the sky scammer and everything. But when you really get into the development and the story behind it, it truly is just an incredible story of how they the situations that force them to release it unfinished, and then their doggedness to actually fulfill every one of their promises that they've done. Yeah, other than that, I'm kind of plowing my way through Baldur's Gate, but I just can't pull away from the bear sex. And I'm probably one of the few people who actually plays Star Citizen and actually enjoys it. But both James and I worked at Electronic Arts at the turn of the century. God, I love being able to use that term. We both have a fascination for buggy games and love it, man.
At the end of the 19th century, I worked at.
So true story. I as a person, I always have I love action figures, and when I was at EA, I had like superhero action figures. I had a bunch of stuff out, and I know it was you, Bryce, so don't deny it. I would come to work every day, and my action figures would be there. I'd step away from my desk, come back, and my action figures would be in compromising positions, like every day, like new interesting things that Wonder Woman and Green Lantern were doing. So
Gotta admire that power lantern right there.
It's the willpower. All about the willpower, man. Fun fact, did you know that Wonder Woman can only be defeated by tying her up? Dead serious. Go Wikipedia. She was originally born as a bondage.
Well, yeah. So, oh my God, why can't I? Marston, I think his last name was something Charles Marston, maybe. Anyway, I watched a movie on his life, and it was really, really interesting. So, I mean, back in the say 40s, 50s,
yeah,
he was not only he was not only polyamorous, he also was whatchamacallit, he was also like into BDSM and a bunch of other things that were like really taboo at that time. So Wonder Woman's creation was very heavily steeped in his I don't want to say his power fantasies for BDSM, but they were definitely a bit out there. There's actually one cell that I saw from one of his comics where he basically has another Amazonian hogtied with the with the lasso of truth, like, and an apple in their mouth or something. It was really
I've seen that one.
Yeah.
Those supposedly like a thermospheric, games that the ladies would play. They would go do a bunch of bondage games. But an Amazon will always lose her power if she's tied up by a man.
Interesting. All right.
Yeah. I mean, I'm partially being facetious, but also very serious. And it's, like you said, the guy's life is fascinating. That's another one. If ever there comes a video essay out on him, definitely check it out.
Yeah, well, there is a movie, and I can't remember the name of it, but it's really good. So if you want to see something about the life and times of Charles, I want to say it's Charles Marston, but I could be wrong. Definitely check it out. It's definitely worth it. I was going somewhere in my head, and now I just can't.
I derailed you. I'm so sorry.
Oh no. That's fine. This is the derailment hour. Oh, I was gonna say, I think anyone who watches our show should have a drinking game of any time I say BDSM, it's porn, or make some sort of off-color comment. Take a drink. I'm sure there'll be people out there with like alcohol poisoning by the.
Our podcast has where anytime a cat shows up, they have to drink. That's why we never have any listeners, because they're all dead.
I was going to say, there are broken livers everywhere.
So actually, tonight's topic, we'll get into it. Do I have tonight's? Again, me and my bumpers. I don't really have a tonight's topic bumper, but if I did have a tonight's topic bumper, I'd play it. So tonight we're actually going to talk about World of Darkness. It's something Bryce actually brought up last week. I think out of passing, we were talking about something else, and he brought up World of Darkness. So World of Darkness was initially owned by a company called White Wolf back in the 90s. They eventually kind of went under and sold to Onyx Path. That was the second company that picked it up. Onyx Path published original, and they also did what they called New World of Darkness, which was a series of games based on, well, I don't want to say based on Vampire. They changed the lore. They changed the rule system a bit. Ultimately, White Wolf kind of came back. And yeah, it's just this weird story. And then they actually started publishing the original books again, but in collections that they would call like Vampire 20, Werewolf 20.
Were they actually based on the Roll-20 system?
No, well, I'll even get into that because there was one. No, there was like 20th year anniversary edition.
Oh, okay, okay.
Ah.
and they kind of were, I don't know, I don't think they took themselves very seriously because in one of the merits and flaws sections you could actually buy sparkle as as one of the extra things that you could buy. And then it got sold to a company called Renegade, and Renegade did a 5th edition of Vampire with most of the original designers. Some of the designers didn't particularly go along with the philosophy of the new edition, and therefore were kind of excluded from the publishing. So actually, I have a couple of those books here. The 5th edition. They also weigh like 50 pounds each. But that is Vampire the Masquerade, the 5th edition.
Mm-hmm.
I will say they fixed a lot of rules I didn't like. So before it wasn't this like, oh my god, I'm running out of willpower, I'm about to become a beast. There's actually dice you roll in your dice pool that simulate that, and ultimately the more you fail, the more the like bestial dice you get, until the point where you can't handle it anymore. So really good mechanic. I think that was definitely a plus to Vampire. And then I got a bunch of the supplements. I'm just too lazy to pull them out. But they also did one for Anarch. They did one for the Camarilla, which was one of and they also have a Sabbat one and a few others. And these are all organizations within the Vampire lore that that adds some flavor to the game. But so just a little bit on World of Darkness, and please feel free to step in and add to this. But World of Darkness was a game changer because in the 90s, and I'll say it this way because it's true, but most gaming conventions were sausage fests. It was like 80 men to 1 woman ratio, and it was usually like someone's mom that dropped them off, or maybe someone's wife who just went to the con so they could go and like go shopping at the mall that's across the street from the hotel or something. And I know that sounds like a stereotype, but that was kind of the truth. I mean, and not to say there weren't women gamers and game masters and stuff back then, but it was rare. It was the unicorn.
They were the exception rather than the rule.
However, World of Darkness came in and that all changed. Now, mind you, it wasn't just like it brought in women of all, creeds and whatever. It brought in goth girls.
Yeah.
You would go into a convention and there would be white pancake makeup and black lipstick as far as the eye can see on both men and women. And but it brought in more of an inclusive, at least gender-wise, it brought in a very inclusive group. I mean, because this is a game that men could get into, women could get into, the gay community could get into. It was something that wasn't D&D, where D&D had a very masculine overtoned, like, you're going to go into a cave and beat things to death with an axe.
We're muggers. Fight game. I mean, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, please.
I was going to say that the incredible thing about that is that it also truly, well, I won't say made mainstream. That didn't come later, but it definitely opened it up to, I guess, the thing that we're cursing nowadays. It really brought in all the cool kids to the role-playing games things. Before then, it was very unashamed nerdy-wise, but when Vampire came in, the designers had everything. They knew their audience, the artwork, the prose, the little stories that are in there. Heck, the headings between sections were often like lyrics to modern songs, or they knew their audience and they made sure to bring them all in. And it was for every splat book that they made, I'm sure that they're based in Texas back then, out in Austin, correct?
That I'm not sure where they
I
were based.
kind of think so because I know Alan Barney of the Paranoia XP thing was working with them back then, and I kind of remember him saying it was like that was one of the few times when you could make splash books and it was like printing money because you had all the different clan. I don't want to go too down deep into the weeds yet, but for every clan got a splat book, and that's an extra. You'd sell like about 100 to maybe no, not 100, easily 1,000 units or so. I mean that game kept so many game stores in business in the 90s, and it also set off a revolution of the not grimdark, but edgy hipster dark role playing games.
I think that one of the things that drew a lot more women into that, even if they were mostly goth women, was it was a game that could inflame the imaginations of that crowd, because it wasn't something that was about combat. It wasn't solely about beating something up. It was about intrigue. It was about political maneuvering. It was so much different than what so many other role-playing games were. And if you've ever participated in any of the LARPing that they did back in that time frame, you could see the machinations taking place right in front of your eyes as people got to do the kind of maneuvering and outmaneuvering of other people that they wish they could do. Now they could put their characters on and they could go do it.
So what was interesting in my region is that a couple of years ago I got really into LARP, and I was looking into like LARP groups, and there were two. There was one in Assiniboine Downs that did like your standard fantasy LARP. And then there was one in like the downtown area where we have like an underground section in our city. And they were doing like Vampire the Masquerade LARP there. And it was like, oh, I need to go there, but I never did. And it's like
that's some of the I was involved in some of the Vampire the Masquerade LARPing. And that's the only LARPing that I did as far as role playing. And
exactly,
it was amazing.
Well, it was like it was a club where people were forced to talk to one another. In San Francisco, we had a pretty hefty. Of course, San Francisco's going to have a pretty hefty Vampire the Masquerade LARP. I never did it. I was too cool for. I'm a liar. Of course, I was. I was Ventru, but it was also very interesting because it was a lot different from your other types of LARPs, because the other LARPs, since they're very like Terry was saying, since most Dungeons and Dragons, Top Secrets, all those other things are so action oriented, that's really hard to replicate safely and not get sued or have parents worrying that they're in the steam tunnels, but whereas when you're in the vampire LARP, you're going, oh God, you got a bunch of goths hanging out, and they're all talking to one another. It's like the Game of Thrones thing before Game of Thrones was a thing.
So Bruja all the way, baby.
Oh yeah, Bruja. I love to usually play either. I never played a Malkavian because people
can't do crazy.
Everybody else played them. They even if you wanted to, that thing was full up.
Yeah. And then Toreador was also usually full up as well.
Fancy pants, Toreador.
Yeah. So Dana mentioned there's a Palace of Fine Arts, and it was beautiful being amongst these like giant columns. It looked very Roman almost when you're out there.
Yeah, Art Nouveau, made for the World's Fair back in the 1930s. So it was almost out of time. And at night with the orange lights lighting them, it truly was kind of, oh gosh, now I'm getting all misty-eyed.
Well, and then we used to go invade the Pizzeria Uno after.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Yeah, after that. So imagine all these like LARPers walking into a Pizzeria Uno at like, I don't know, 11 o'clock at night.
It's the thing. They never thought they were LARPers. All they started going, oh God, a bunch of goth kids, another club's getting out. Because that was back in the days when there was 1,000 clubs in San Francisco. Literally go to a different goth club every night. Right.
Oh yeah, I was actually talking to my friend Jason Elliott. We were kind of going over, there was House of Usher, there was Roderick's Chamber, There was Winter Gone By. There was the
Mhm.
Shrine of Lilith. There, I mean, you know, and then Cats Club would end up having something that was going on. Then you also had not many goths, but at Bondage a Go Go, you kind of had, you know, stuff going on. Oh, and Death Guild.
Yeah.
So all these clubs going on like every week, to the point where, yeah, it wouldn't be surprising to
You
go,
could
oh,
spend your entire week, you know, in goth face. Yeah.
but there was an ugly side to it. So now we get to the ugly
Uh-oh,
side.
the darkness.
Yeah. So
You light a candle.
most of the storytellers, because that's what they like to be called, were kind of assholes. Like, to be honest, they would do. I had to go through an interview process. They would have people show up at usually at the Horseshoe out in the Lower Haight, which was this kind of weird coffee shop that you were really surprised that you didn't die of dysentery after visiting it. But it was the most popular hangout ever, and you would go in and you'd have the storyteller would say, all right, we're gonna have a group of people come out between like 1 and 3 on Saturday, and I'm gonna interview people. And they'd literally sit you down and ask, and there wasn't even like game questions. They were just like these really kind of asinine lore based questions, and you know, what would you do? And it's like they're like HR, like goth HR. And and ultimately either you made it in or you didn't. Like, you were rejected. You're still like, oh no, we can't use you. And it was the same way with the LARPs. If you didn't know somebody, you weren't getting in. And luckily at that time, I was friends with oh god, I can't remember her. I know she went by Beltane. She used to work.
I know who you're talking about. She's still around.
Yeah, Aldith Beltane.
Lilith Beltane? Aldith, yeah. Aldith
Yeah.
Beltane.
She used to work for Comic Experience, and I used to practically live in that store. So I ended up making friends with her for a very short amount of time, and got myself into the
Long enough to use her for access.
That sounds so dirty. But there was, you know, so there was that. There was like a very high school club attitude in playing the vampire LARPs, and even in the RPGs. You know, everyone had their sacred chronicles that you were either part of or you weren't part of. But I'm guilty there, because actually I ran like a 4-year chronicle based out of a convention called DungeonCon that was in San Rafael at the time. So, you know, guilty as charged, but it just was kind of one of the things. So yes, it brought a lot of people into the mix, but it also was very very cliquish. So if you didn't belong to the clique,
I can sort of see a need for having that kind of filtering process. If you want to have a LARPing experience where everybody seems to fit the milieu, where they seem to fit that type of thing, and so you could put the real world out of mind, you can't have Joe, you know, the guy from the hockey squad, come in, hey, I'm Brewha, who wants a brew?
I mean, in here, that's just, you know, your average Joe.
Well,
Who wants a brewski?
So I can see him now. I can see, oh, bro, you stabbed me with that steak, bro.
Yeah, I mean, so yeah, I get why it was filtered the way it was, but still, it felt, you know, for something.
When you're the one that's excluded, it feels bad.
Yeah, because you're not cool enough of a vampire to belong to it. And
Which is so. Oh, I'm sorry.
You know, that's where you should plot your revenge and go out night by night, killing them one after another, leaving their bodies for their friends to find in the darkness. Oh.
Wow, Terry, that's kind of frightening. Bryce, you're going to say something.
Whatever it was, I've blown it. I've blown my wad. So.
Sorry.
But then, all right. So, but going forward, as White Wolf was putting out, so they were actually one of the first companies besides TSR at the time to put out like a splat book for everything.
Mm-hmm.
Every month there was a new book, whether it was written well or not, to basically play with the game. Um, there's like storyteller guides, and each of the clan books had a supplement, and then each of the sub clans of the clan books had supplements. Then they were just getting kind of carried away with stuff, and it would just be like Vampire the Masquerade, the book of grass outside your house. It just got really, really, really bad. But that's where Bryce's point came up from last session about the forgotten books of White Wolf, the ones that they put out that were completely horrible, and I've never met anyone who played them. So,
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say there are a couple of them where the premise is fascinating. Like there's two. Mage, I was always fascinated by, but never saw anybody actually play it. And then there's the one that's dear to my heart, and I'm probably the only person in the world that likes it. Wraith. I loved it. I read that thing. It was fascinating. The rule set, specifically with the idea that you have the psyche and the shadow, and you had the two. But I could see where it's like, oh, this is. We used to call them readers because they're fascinating to read, but it'd just be like herding cats to try to get a group together to actually play that in a thing. One of these days, maybe the Dead Game Society will put something up where they'll actually play it. But yeah, there was Mage, there was Wraith, there was Werewolf, which was pretty popular also.
Yeah,
with like the punk rock grunge kids. Obviously the goths loved Vampire and the punks loved Werewolf. Yeah, but outside of, I guess, was there a mummy book also? Or?
Yeah, so that's what I was about to say. They kind of went down the path of like, let's hit up every Universal monster and make a supplement. Because yes, there was a mummy book. They had a book called Promethean. That was actually one of the last of the White Wolf books. That was pretty much the Frankenstein book. So there was all these things going on, and I just kind of felt like some were really playable, and like some you said were readers. Like someone took a lot of time and love and energy to create this product, and it just didn't hit the right tones because everyone still wanted to play either Vampire, Werewolf, or Mage, like the big three.
That's the funny thing is I think Wraith came out about 10 years too early because it's a very theatrical, maybe that's one of the reasons I liked it. It was a very theatrical improv troupy type of game. You needed to have a big troupe of lesbians to really get into it. I think, back then it's just like a lot of gamers are like, that's I don't want to deal with that stuff. But nowadays, the days of Critical Role, and you have actors that are actually making their money playing doing RPGs. I think Wraith would make a great. And God, their Splat book Risen, the Crow Splat book.
Remember, they had a controversial book called by Black Dog, which was one of their subsidiary companies to do adult stuff. They actually did a Auschwitz supplement for Wraith. It's very rare now to find, and it was like super. I have a copy of it actually because
I would love to read it. It's kind of like remember the not to go off on a tangent, but you remember the book of Vile Darkness and all the controversy.
Yes.
Yeah, it's like you're going, okay, yeah, it does go into some really, really dark and disturbing topics, but that's the whole thing. That game is the game you want to play if you really want to get into, really explore the pain and God. Let me light a couple of more candles when I talk more about the pain that is involved in this. But it really did kind of what do you call it? Ignite the imagination if you're going for that true Clive Barker type horror type stuff.
We're actually forgetting White Wolf book 2. The book that brought every patchouli wearing neo hippie out of the Dead shows, Changeling.
Oh my God! remember Damien? That was the guy who was, oh yeah, I'm a red cat. You know?
It was kind of I can't, if you really wanted to play lovey-dovey, huggy, hippie, White Wolf product, it was Changeling, where you can play an elf, or you can play fey creatures, or you can. And I swear, everyone I met who had played it, especially the LARPers, were like weird. You forgot to take your meds, sort of people. They were just bizarre. I am a spider, I mean, that sort of thing. So yeah.
Well, and that's the whole thing. That was the brilliance of White Wolf at the time, because I mean, when their money printer was going, when they're just putting out those black books, they had some great marketing people of going, okay, shit, the Goths are eating this up. What other fucking subcultures can we get on this shit? Fucking deadheads, they'll buy anything. What can we pinch out right now?
We'll put the game on a cassette tape and say it was bootlegged. They'll eat it up. Yeah. So I don't want to continue down this rabbit hole of how horrible White Wolf was, but
no, they're brilliant.
But honestly, this is advice from me, and I'll allow everyone to give their advice. If you really, really want to play Vampire, go get V20. Ignore the fact that they have Sparkle as a merit, and because that is basically first edition cleaned up and made really playable. And and even if you want to play Werewolf, get Werewolf 20. They're not too bad on eBay, so they're not horrible if you want to try to go find first or second edition.
Is there a Mage 20?
Yes, there is. There's a Mage 20. Yeah. So pick those books up if you can, if you really want to experience the game. I'm not gonna, even though I dumped a ton of money into the 5th edition, because I just buy games anyway.
Yeah.
It still wasn't. I don't know. It just didn't have that feeling. It actually, think one of the books actually has a thing, and again, I don't want to start getting into that GUR safety tools, but it talks about, well, if you're afraid of blood, here's how you can actually run the game. And it's like, you gotta be fucking kidding me. What?
Well, I mean, I totally sympathize you on that one, but also when you've gone through the other end and you've seen some of the folks that really, really, really get into it, you can say, yeah, let's not go there.
I mean, I don't know, if you're afraid of blood, you shouldn't be playing a vampire game. If you're afraid of magic and cults, Mage probably isn't the game for you. If you don't like
ghosts on your bag.
Yeah, exactly. Don't play. The thing is, don't play it and then bitch about it.
Exactly.
Utilize your own self-control. See if a game is suitable for you. If it's not, go find one that is.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Don't try to change everybody else's stuff.
Play Changeling. There you go. You can play a lovey, huggy elf and go and hug a tree and kiss it and talk to nymphs. I mean, that's well, all right, whatever they're called. Tree.
That brings a whole new meaning to getting a Woody.
Oh
my God.
All right, and that's our topic changer for so Gwen, you're going to talk about Spider-Man and his amazing friends and and gaming. So please.
Yes, so I've been playing Spider-Man when I wasn't playing No Man's Sky, specifically the Marvel Spider-Man. And it got me thinking about random encounters, because that game utilizes random encounters pretty well. Basically, as you're webbing through the city, doing, heading from point A to point B, you'll get, a random encounter, essentially, that is, depending on where you are in the plot and what side missions you're doing, that could be anything from a mugging to a showdown between this mercenary military force and a samurai magic wielding gang, or it could be just a a homeless man asked you to collect his pigeons for him, and a pigeon flew by your face, and you can identify that as the pigeon that needs to be collected, and so you need to go after it. And it's it just had me thinking about, like, you know, random encounters and, like, you know, how you would place them. And you might not have, like, a lot of people think, oh, random encounter, like, that'll be in my face, I have to deal with it kind of thing. But, like, what if it's not? What if you're just, like, walking through the woods and a bandit group isn't stopping you? A bandit group is instead, like, you know, over on, like, another road nearby, like, attacking a carriage, or attacking, or even just, like, not attacking, but, like, surrounding some maiden or a rich prince or something. And, like, you know, it's kind of your choice of if you want to engage in that or if you want to leave. Or you could come across, like, goblins fighting off, like, a militia group. And it's like, do you want to join in? Whose side would you take? But you could also just ignore it. And yeah.
No, I get that. So, and Mike's not here tonight, but he would appreciate this story. When we played in his game, we were actually going through a forest, and we saw these, you know, kind of shady-looking guys dragging people along, very underdressed men and women in these, like, wooden carts going along. And it was just meant to be a, you know, random encounter that we see this. However, the person who was playing the paladin in the group said, "Are those slavers?" And Mike stopped and thought about it, because I don't think he was actually expecting to have to explain it. It was just like a random thing going on. And he said yes, and we just completely left the track that we were on to go, like, kill slavers and free the slaves. So... But I get that sort of thing where it's like,
James, don't you know that slavery is evil, and if you have it in your games, you're evil?
I know. Well, unless I'm playing Dark Sun, I'm usually the person who doesn't. Well, Dark Sun or my game, Tale from the Fallen Empire. But besides those two, and Vampire. No, I'll just start rattling games. Oh yeah, and Toon. Yes, if I'm playing Toon.
Anything related to Mad Max?
Oh my god, now I want slave rules in Toon. Yeah.
All right, but no, Gwen brings up a valid point. And those who game master, or even those as players, random encounters could be great, especially like lull time. But I have a question for you. Is really there a pigeon scene in Spider-Man?
Yeah, there's a homeless guy who's like, hey, so a bunch of my pigeons got loose. Can you chase after them and, like, get them all for me? And there's only 12 pigeons to find, but it's actually pretty fun, like, chasing them down.
You have to web them?
Yeah, you have to web them.
Oh,
you have to, like, catch up to them and, like, web them, and you kind of, like, bring them into you, and you hug them, and then you collect them.
Wow. Wouldn't that actually kill a pigeon if you were hit by the
force?
Probably.
Don't bring any realism in here. Come on.
Yeah, come on. This is a game where we have a 700-pound or 700-ton rhino.
Oh god. So and these are quests we can kind of ignore. Oh, I'm sorry. Looks like you're frozen there.
Yeah.
Yeah, my Wi-Fi is cutting in and out.
All right. I'm sorry, Bryce. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, so these are random encounters that you can play, or you have the ability to kind of walk around them and ignore them.
Yeah, you can even, like, walk through them if you wanted.
Well, of course, that's very Spider-Man themed. You want, like, not my responsibility, man. You know, and then keep going.
It's like, wow, this looks like a lot going on. Too bad I have to be over there.
Yeah. So Terry, you actually have a lot of books recently that you've bought from Kickstarter that have, like, random tales and things like that. What are your thoughts on randomness and those things within a game?
I think randomness has a place, because if you don't have that certain level of randomness, then it feels like you're being railroaded. You've got to leave them the options of doing things, and that free will aspect of being a gamer is really important. Because if you don't have free will as a player, then you're actually just a puppet dancing on the strings of the GM, telling the story that the GM wants to tell. And collaborative storytelling is something different than that. You've got to have those random encounters. You've got to have player choice. It's very important.
Yeah, I think there's a limit to player agency, though. And I'm not trying to sound like a dick, but...
Sure, you're not.
Like, for example, last week we were talking about... oh, God, we're talking about something that... WotC requires you to stop and ask people if they want to turn into mind flayers or and that much agency in a game shouldn't be there, right? The player shouldn't be the GM goes, and your character, missed their last death save and now they lie dead beneath the feet of the Orc King. And the player can go, well, I don't want my character to die. All right, well, he's not dead. It's like,
here's the deal. I'm going to throw this out because a lot of my thoughts on this and many other subjects align somewhat with the small L libertarian side. A player's agency stops when it impacts anyone else, the game master or other players. You can do what you're going to do, but you don't have unilateral power over everything else. Yeah. You don't get to choose, no, I'm not going to die. Well, I'm sorry, those events are perhaps outside your control.
Speaking of random encounters, my friend was running a vampire-based Pathfinder First Edition campaign, and he ran it for myself and my friend twice-ish. Like, the first time we ran it was with a different group of friends, and that kind of fell through because scheduling. So then we tried to run it with a new group of friends, and that one's going really well. But because of that, my friend and I went through the opening twice, whereas everybody else went through it once. And so we got to see the little, changes. And one of the first encounters we had was with, a bunch of fae and a strange tree monster. And that was in the second one, too. But instead of there being fae, there was, this weird fog. And it was, and there were, skeletons that were rising from the dead.
That's a great pause spot right there.
Yeah.
That's a great... You should capture that screen capture right there.
Yeah, you're
that was perfect. You're like...
But, yeah, it was just there was a fog and it was resurrecting skeletons. And it was it was interesting to see an encounter just turn on its head because my GM had a table that they were rolling on that said, you are fighting this monster with this modifier. And we got the same monster but different modifiers.
No, that's, and it's just creativity like that. And I think to Terry's point too, is that it's stuff that keeps the players on their toes. It's something that's interesting and adds to the flavor of what you're trying to do. Because, if you're playing a very railroady campaign where it goes from point A to point B to point C, and there's nothing to see in between, then that gets boring. And even if you go back to really, really, really early D&D, random encounters were a thing. Every module had 4 sets of random encounter tables that you'd have to roll on. And a lot of them were really stupid, too. 3 kobolds walk across your path and swear at you. They're just really dumb things. But, at least they made them interesting, I guess, to some degree. And now, as I was mentioning to Terry, because Terry does a lot of Kickstarters, there's a ton of books that are being published that are just basically that.
Yeah.
Are just random encounter books.
Oh, yeah.
Or mini encounters or side stories or things. And those are great because one, a lot of people will say that being a game master is easy. It's not, because you kind of have to maintain several different things in your head. And a lot of times you just want a off-the-shelf subplot that you can toss in there and play with your friends. And I think that's one of the things that Paizo does really well with their modules is there's a lot of sidebars that will say, well, you can do this, or if you want to add this to it, or, you can beef up your encounter by doing this. And I appreciate that because sometimes you're just at a loss to to go in between. And before we go on to Terry, I just want to say that I found a feature today because I guess I never scrolled down far enough here on StreamYard, but it does background music, and now I'm curious.
Oh boy, here we go. Now the 70s porn music is coming in.
Okay, so do we want acoustic cinematic, dance pop, daydreaming, feed the ducks, into space, lo-fi, night driving, or rock?
Lovely.
I think I may have some of the things that you're talking about. I think I may have supported whatever it is that you've got there, because it all sounds very familiar.
Let's do feed the ducks. I want to hear it. Oh yeah.
I'm feeding the ducks.
Yeah, that's a euphemism, I'm sure. Let's try dance pop. This is more like take lots of Molly and listen to music, sort of music. All right, one more. How about into space? Oh, acoustic cinematic.
Yeah, let's try that.
See, I got a lot of music from Digital Juice back when they were doing it, and they changed to Music Box, and I still have a bunch of their music as well, and it sounds like a lot of theirs.
Yeah, I kind of was expecting this to sound like more REM-ish.
Yeah,
like I would be able to like sing along or something.
No, this is infomercial. Amazing new things.
Yeah, but still, it's all about this. Yeah, baby, I'm feeding the ducks.
I'm
Open a little
obfuscating
Those ducks.
in the back of the room.
Opening
Watching
their
you
little
undress.
beaks, putting food in their little mouths, and closing. Okay.
What even is going on?
Please note this screen is voted X.
Yeah. All right. So let's move on to Terry, and then we will end. I want to bring Dana on to talk about Amsterdam because I have questions. So Terry, I am going to go ahead and do a screen share sort of thing.
Okay.
And
I can show up pictures before you do that. I can bring up. And this is the Journal of the Traveler's Aid Society. I supported their issues 7 to 12. And the Journal of the Traveler's Aid Society, for those who do not know, is basically a magazine that was put out in booklet format with the original Traveler and now with the Mongoose version of Traveler, that each issue had a wide variety of things: equipment, different planets, different starships, all kinds of just a random selection of different stuff that's pretty cool for a game master to sort through and look at. And I have all of the original journals of the Traveler's Aid Society, and I was hooked by it when they came out, and was always there to buy the new one when they were coming out. And this one, I supported it because I just wanted to get back in on that. And it came with this, which was a guide to starports, which is always interesting to have. And I supported also to buy the 6 issues that I did not have.
Nice.
So I've got all 12 of those. And I still haven't read through all of them, but it's very much like going back to my gaming roots and reliving some of that, because Traveler is one of the first science fiction games that I ever played, and I played a lot of it back in the day. And even now, I still play 2 Traveler games by email that have been ongoing for 20 plus years.
Wow.
That's wow. I mean, but the thing is, Traveler is a beautiful game. It's simplistic. It is, it's a 2d6, and you need to get 8. I mean, that's the game. I don't particularly agree with a lot of the way Traveler has done. How can I put it? I don't like the way they do their leveling up sort of thing, because it takes forever to level a Traveler character up, and if you end up with suck stats or anything else, you're kind of this like broken character for years.
Yeah, you're never-
What other role-playing game can you die during character creation?
You're never gonna get 8.
What other role-playing game can you die during character creation?
You're never gonna get 8.
What other role-playing game can you die during character creation?
True, very true, and that's a feature. That's not a bug.
Yeah, no, I mean, I love the fact of going, okay, if you want to risk it all, you could go for another term. You probably get some great stuff, but you're also risking going, losing this badass character.
When I supported this Kickstarter, I also took the opportunity to buy the box set for The Great Rift
Oh, nice.
and Deep Night Revolution, which is like the grandest scale exploration that I've ever even considered seeing
Given
there.
how much, sorry to interrupt.
Go ahead.
I just had the thought of like, given how much No Man's Sky references like Traveler and Traveler, like never Travelers, just Traveler, makes me think that like it was very inspired by Traveler.
Could be.
I wouldn't be surprised about the same age range.
Yeah, I mean, there is rumor that Joss Whedon, Firefly, was born from a Traveler campaign that he played.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you think about the games that first came out, I mean, the three were D&D, Tunnels and Trolls, and Traveler. Like, those were the first three games historically, as far as RPGs to come out. And Traveler's fun. And I'll give a shout out to my friend Ken Patterson, who's the head of the New England branch of the Dead Game Society. And I've been playing Traveler with him now for like 5 years. We do like a every other week game, and it's great. But the only thing I don't like about Traveler, and maybe it's just one of the things he does, but I have a feeling it's very embedded in the rules, is that there's a lot of math involved. So you have to figure out how much cargo you're carrying, how much life support you have, how much fuel you have, how many credits you have. Like
It is embedded.
Yeah.
Oh,
okay.
yeah. It was probably one of the few games where it's like, I remember I graduated in 85. So, like, right afterwards, I'm going, my God, I get to use my high school calculus for once,
Just because, even though this is not part of the Kickstarter, if you'll bring back the full screen here.
All right.
Full screen. Or you can even make me bigger and I'll show pictures here.
Oh, yeah. Hold on. I could do this, but then, where'd you go? Hold on.
You've hidden me.
Yeah, okay, so there's a way to do this. No, that's big screen. All right, hold on. Yeah, I am sad in saying that I cannot figure out how to make you bigger or wait. Let's see, can I don't want to hit like 3-dot things and completely screw things up. I will try one more time. So that brings up me, but all right, I'm just going to go back to here and let's see, can we do this?
Try tabbing through it. Maybe it'll switch views. Nope, no luck.
Oh wait, maybe. Oh no, I don't want to remove you. All right.
Yeah,
so I
don't do
think we're kind of stuck with this.
Ooh.
Actual rules for playing with miniatures for infantry space combat with Traveler. I picked up that years ago, and my pile of old Traveler books.
Yeah.
Wow.
Let's see. I'll just randomly select some here, like Digest, Far Traveler, bunch of Far Traveler stuff. What else we got here? Ooh, big favorite, the Sky Raiders trilogy from FASA. That was good stuff there.
You're looking at a lot of
Zorag from Paranoia Press.
Yeah.
What else? Got all the adventures. I don't need to show the adventures, but I can bring up the original #1 of the Journal of Travelers Aid Society. I think these are, what are these? All of the rest of these. These are all Journal of the Travelers Aid Society. Issue 1 all the way up to issue 24. There may be more, I don't know. If so, I don't have them.
There's a famous adventure that takes place on a ring space station it turns out to be kind of a weird zombie adventure, but I can't remember the name of it. It's an old one too. They redid it for Mongoose Traveler. Nova something maybe.
Anik Nova?
Yeah.
Like this one?
Yep, there it is. Anik Nova. Probably to me one of the best Traveler adventures that I ever played in.
I wore these books out so bad. I've gone through so many of the original Little Black books that it's unspeakable. I have broken them into pieces many times. And I finally went ahead and bought just one big book.
Oh, wow.
One big book. What else do I got here? There was also, I picked these up at a convention, and I thought that was pretty cool. They're all destroyed because they're stained and whatnot. But from Cargonaut Press, I picked up a series of, 8 books? All types of different adventures and whatnot.
Wow.
Things like that. So I happen to have a few Traveler things lurking around on my shelf.
All right, Terry. So next time our Wednesday group pushes to we're gonna change games, you gotta back me up on Traveler, because I tried to push it at one point and everyone's like, "Well, I don't want to play." I mean, they didn't
I'd
say
love to
like
play
that.
Traveler.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great game, especially the Mongoose version cleaned up a lot of the stuff from the original. It's a lot cleaner now to run. Still, like I said, not happy with all the accounting
I love accounting.
or the carrot. Well, maybe, yeah, then Traveler is the game for you. It's like
I took the books out on field exercises with me when I was in the Army so that I could, by myself, do trading of stuff, going from system to system to just play the trader. That's how nerdy I was.
Nice.
Yeah, James. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, so Greg corrected me. Death Station is on a ring ship. Attic Nova is on a weird shaped ship.
Ah.
Okay, I'm sorry. Bryce, what were you saying?
Oh, no, I'm just curious. In the Mongoose system, how do they handle leveling up, progression? Because, like you said, Death Station, that was the kiss of death for the original Traveler. Because
there's alternate rules for it where you can actually try to roll, like you gain points, and I think that's how Ken does it as well. So at the end of every session, you say, okay, well, what did you do really well this session? And then you would gain points, and then basically you would get to subtract the number of points you have and what skill you want or what you want to raise by the number of points you have, and it starts at 12. So let's say you put 5 points into something. Now you have to roll like a 7 or less on 2d6. If you get it, you can put something in there. But if you fail, then you go a week without leveling up. And I think that's an optional thing. Otherwise, it's realistically, I think original Traveler didn't have level up rules at all.
They did not.
Yeah.
Yeah. You basically played what you got. All right.
But that's my Kickstarter. It was a really, really fun one to support, and I'll support more of it. But yeah, I'll definitely argue the Traveler thing, but I don't think you're going to convince them. They seem pretty fantasy-oriented.
Well, maybe it might be a great. We do an episode of Infinite Odysseys, one of our live streams. We can do a Traveler scenario, like a short Traveler scenario. So
if you ever decide to get them a long-going one, I recommend Legend of the Sky Raiders.
All right, who put that? Is that
It's Fossa.
Oh, it's Fossa. There's a name. Earth Dawn and Shadowrun and
Star Trek.
Oh yeah, I remember Star Trek. Fossa.
Here,
Trek.
I'll let you read the back of that, and that way you can see it.
The Sky Raiders. Hold on, because this deserves
background music.
Yeah.
Yes.
It doesn't deserve that kind of background music.
They pillaged a dozen worlds sometime in the distant past, then vanquished. Who were they? A beautiful archaeologist. Okay.
You suck at reading, man.
Yeah, I suck at reading. But because I'm going to do this all the time now, so this is my feeding the dust.
That's my jam, baby. I feel bad for your wife. No, we got to play it every time.
Every time we talk, we're gonna order lunch, and I'm just gonna go, just say bologna and cheese.
I think I've supported enough of the various get the little black books type things. I think I actually have these in electronic format somewhere.
Okay, well, yeah. I mean, I'd love to read the Sky Raider stuff, especially if I end up doing something like a A mini campaign. All right, Dana, we're going to wrap up by talking about Amsterdam here. So hopefully you're still on. And there you go. I'll wait till you pop on.
I might trade off with Dana, as it is late for me, and
Okay.
I need to go to work tomorrow.
All right, Gwen. Well, thank you again for joining us, and we will talk next week and during the week to figure out stuff. All right. Good night.
Sorry to cut it short, but I gotta sleep.
No problem.
Sleep overrated.
All right. And Dana, you are on. You are live.
Have a good night, buddy.
So
Do your thing.
Amsterdam, like, so again.
Okay, wait. Before Amsterdam, I got one question for you, James.
All right.
Why on God's green earth are you trying to go full Barry White when they play Feed the Ducks?
Because so it's making my brain go back to KSOL. So anyone who lived in the Bay Area and listened to KSOL, especially after 10 o'clock at night,
yes,
there was always that Barry White guy who would just be like, all right, well, next we're going to listen to Prince and the Revolution. And then we're going to listen to some Sly and the Family Stone. And, and it would go on and on.
Because when you did that, dude, that's the first thing I thought of was Barry White. I was like, oh my God, James has gone Barry White on us. What happened?
Right.
But Amsterdam, man, dude, you know what? You should have let me on earlier because, man, there was a number of things I could have talked with you about. I mean, that I really could have. I knew some stuff like the LARPs and like other stuff, man, for real. But I'm not busting your chops. I'm just saying, But
Okay.
Anyway, Amsterdam. What's your questions?
So, okay, 'cause we all know you can smoke pot, whatever. That's not my question. But the red light district looks so bizarre. Like, what is the feel of it? Is something that's really creepy and people stay away from? Is it something like
no? It's crowded. A lot of people go there. It's basically a shitload of brothels, and they're in windows, and like it's like department store windows, but you actually got like the ladies standing in the window, scantily dressed, looking at you, smiling, doing the hey, come here, all that stuff, and. If you want, if you see one you like, you motion to them, you go in the door, and once you go in, you go off. You go obviously away from the room where the window is.
Yeah,
in the public, and go do your thing, man. But yeah, that's what it's like. And now the architecture of the buildings there is beautiful, though. But yeah, you got all kinds of crazy stuff going on between the brothels. You got the hash bars in the red light district. And they got they're very creative in the way they display all their pot and like hash and all that. Like some places they'll hand you a binder with a bunch of samples in it with prices. Another place you go and there's like this dark window and there's a little button and you press the button and the window lights up and everything's on display. Like nicely neat, organized prices. You go into one of the hash bars there. And on the bar, maybe every 2 feet or 3 feet, it looks like what's a giant shot glass, and it's just stuffed full of rolling paper, and it's all the way down the bar, And wow. Then you got head shops in there. It's like all kinds of stuff.
That's.
Oh, go ahead, James.
No, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just curious about the department store windows. So basically, you're right there, and then you make a little dance, they come up and they let you in. And so when you're with the woman, Dina, what's it like?
Trick question.
Oh my God, you even Bryce, man, cut it out. Just cut it out, Bryce. Only you would say something like that, Bryce. Only you, brother.
So, and I think, and Terry, you can tell me if there was any other experience when you were growing up. But so growing up in San Francisco, you had Broadway, and on Broadway there was just and the Tenderloin too. Can't forget about the Tenderloin.
We used to. Well, I don't know if you did a lot, James, but I know I'm sure you remember a lot of, and even before like before, like I was hanging out with you and Dennis, I was hanging out with a lot of my friends. We used to go cruise Broadway all the time.
Yeah, I mean that was a thing to do, but you had the peep shows.
Yes.
And
or else you had like the perverts that were in there looking at the women in the windows. They put in the money and the little window go up and the women would be dancing and stuff. And they, relieve themselves right there in the booth and like leave it on the floor. So people would they would have guys who actually go in there and mop up the jizz and stuff. It was pretty bad, man. It was horrible.
There's actually a name for that job, which I can't remember what it is.
Jizz mopper? I don't know. I mean, it was bad, dude.
But the experience is that you went in and they did a little bit of in that video, She's a Beauty, that the Tubes did. So
yeah,
you literally went in, you put a quarter into the machine,
and the little window goes up.
Yeah,
and then you're looking at it. It's like a women in a circle, like dancing and stuff.
That was the lusty lady. That was like.
Go ahead, James. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh no, Bryce, go ahead. The lusty lady.
Oh yeah, and I remember it because that was like the first unionized pizza in the United States.
Really?
Yeah, unfortunately.
Now that I didn't know.
Yeah.
So, and then you had the strip bars all along Broadway too. So you had Adam and Eve,
Under Club,
yep. Or else you could always go to the O'Farrell Theater too, even though that wasn't on Broadway. But you had a lot of places you could go, man.
That's where Marilyn Chambers got arrested for digital insertion. I still remember that headline.
And that's not CGI either,
But those are the places you went to. Well, I mean, were places that you went to, but you passed by, you saw from a distance when you're in a helicopter, that sort of thing. But they existed. I don't know. So Terry, growing up in Texas,
BFE, yeah, I grew up in a small town. Yeah, I didn't see any of that.
Oh. Well, now, James, like back in Amsterdam, the one thing about the red light district, though, you did have CD characters running around there sometimes. You had a lot of there was a number of African immigrants running around there, and I think a couple of them were like pimps and shit.
Maybe they were theme characters.
Huh?
I said maybe they were theme characters.
No, this one dude tried to recruit this Australian. As I was hanging out with a group of it was South Africans and Australians, and this Australian chick, he tried to recruit her and shit, but it didn't work. But I remember her and her friend talking about it. It was hilarious.
Now I want a job as an Amsterdam theme character. I'm the mayor of the Red Light District.
but you know what? Also too, going there, they had these boat rides, these long boats with glass windows, like a glass hood window, right? It was long though, and you went riding around the canal. You paid for the ticket and stuff, and you got to see all the architecture on all the buildings. It was a lot of the buildings there are really very well built, very old, and very beautiful. The architecture is just spectacular.
Oh, I thought you meant glass bottom boats.
Or I thought you were going to say that they have all the prostitutes in a glass boat. You just stand at the edge of and just watch them go down the river.
No. They stayed to the district, man. They didn't get out of there.
Someone needs to write a supplement on Amsterdam now for. Hey, White Wolf, get on that.
Well, the whole reason I went there to begin with was because that was back in my stoner days, which I don't do anymore. But I made what I called the stoner's pilgrimage to the stoner's Mecca. But I had so much hash and weed when I was there, I literally had to give it away before I left because I couldn't take it with me. I just went overboard. I think I chose 2 days to take a break, and the rest of the time I was just getting stoned and eating.
So what kind of food was in Amsterdam? We talked about red light district, we talked about architecture and pot. What was food like there?
Let me see.
You're just so stoned that you just don't care. It's just oh look, there's cupcakes.
Well, I was eating a lot of the cheap stuff. I was eating at this place called Phoebo Chicken, which is probably their version of Kentucky Fried. And because I had kind of started running out of money a little bit, And so I was like on the cheap, and I'm like, I kept going there. But there were some spots that were really nice, good restaurants. But there were some other ones that weren't so great. One thing I forget if this was Amsterdam or if it was London, because I was in London. I had split the trip 1 week in London and 1 week in Amsterdam at the time. And somebody had whole kernel corn on pizza. And I'm like, no, that's freaking blasphemy. You know, like, you don't do that. I was having a, typical American having a fit in Europe about corn on pizza, I was like, but I mean, to me, that's just like, no, you don't. I mean, use these big yellow kernels on the pizza, and I'm not eating that. Like, no, I'm not gonna buy that. Are you kidding me? No, that's not what pizza's like. Y'all need to go to New York, damn it.
Well, but Dana, I'll say you inspired me, because when I went to London, I had to have pizza, and I even told Mary, I said, "Oh, my friend Dana said they have the worst pizza in the world. We have to go to a pizza place." It wasn't horrible, but so first of all, I learned a new term.
Okay.
Rocket. So rocket
Okay.
in England is basically arugula, and that's what they call it. So I'm looking at the thing, and it said, "Oh, it had this, this, and this, and rocket," and I'm just going, "What the hell is rocket? Like, what could rock? I'm just kind of picturing, oh, it's like maybe a theme pizza where they
Some
put like a
secret
toy ingredient.
Does it fly in? Land at your feet?
They got it from the ducks, man. I'm telling you, they got it from the ducks.
Like feeding the ducks? No, never mind. I won't go there. But anyway, it's it's just interesting. It's a different country. It's a different culture. Now with marijuana and such becoming mainstream, kind of like mainstream here in the U.S., it's we haven't gotten to that point yet where we have hash bars, but
well, I worked for Philips, which is a Dutch company,
Uh-huh.
and they were mentioning back when the U.S. started making this stuff illegal, of going, "Oh my God, this is going to kill our tourism, industry." And we had all the Dutch executives were complaining about that. Because I kept hearing
wait a minute, you know what? You can get hash here legal now. I mean, because I've seen some ads on Facebook advertising for hash now. For real, I'm not joking, man. They really did. I mean, I don't smoke it anymore, so I mean, I don't. But if I did, I probably would have bought some. You know what I actually found? I actually found a site that actually sold seeds of Colombian gold. That was like the shit back in our day, man, when we were younger. That was the thing to smoke, was Colombian gold, man.
yeah,
But
back
no,
in the day.
Go ahead, man. Sorry. No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, I was just gonna say. Also back in the day, we had to wait till the neo hippies came down from Humboldt County from going to college, and during their spring break or summer break to bring down the good stuff from Humboldt. And that was, otherwise you're smoking like shake. Yeah, we're really going down the road here. So I'm just so glad we're not monetized. Well, I'm sad that we're not monetized, but if we were monetized, this episode probably would have.
Let me tell you, back to Amsterdam real quick. The people in Amsterdam were actually pretty nice. I think at that point in time, I was more of a shitty American, so I think I kind of ticked some people off back there, but
you
it was
ruined
my
it
fault.
for the rest of us.
Yeah, I did, because I had kind of, well, you remember, James, I used to be pretty explosive back in the day, man, and I was still explosive back then. So I remember, I think what happened was I was gonna get on that boat, right, and I was gonna get I went to get some change, and I got the ticket. And I turned around, and I was like 10 feet away from the boat, and they saw me, and I'm like, "Hey, just hold on real quick. I'll get the ticket. I got the change. I'll be right there." And they took off without me, and I kind of threw a fit at the time. You know me, back then. I'm not quite as like that no more, man. But back then I was Mr. Explosive, and I remember this lady just looking at me like she was horrified because I was having a fit. And I look back on it now, it's like, God, how embarrassing, because everybody there was like really nice. People are really cool there. They don't really, that nobody's really like out to mess with you and stuff.
Well, they were until you arrived. Now they've got a picture of you on the immigration controls. Americans are welcome, except Dana Gonzalez.
Well, I remember I accidentally got on the trolley without paying because I wasn't kosher to how they did their tickets. I tried to pay the conductor, and I guess you had to get it before you got off. So I could have got a fine for it, but they let me go. They were cool with me about it. I told them, I said, here, no, I'll pay for it. I said, I'm sorry, I didn't know, and but they were nice to me about it. But I would actually recommend going to visit Amsterdam. You would like it. Even if you don't smoke, you don't have to smoke pot just to go over there and chill and take in the sights and stuff. It's a nice little town or little country.
I think my next goal is just to get to Norway. Like, honestly, I just want to go see where Vikings came from. So I don't know. It's just my obsession with Vikings. I have to go to Norway.
Hey Jay, real quick, back to the LARP thing. Do you remember how cliquish the groups were down there at the Palace of Fine Arts when we were playing at the time?
Oh yeah, they're open to accepting of everyone. They're goths.
Oh no, they were cliquish as hell. It was crazy how cliquish they were. And then I remember the Berkeley group. I actually typed it in the text, in the chat. I was about to set off. My character was about to set off a war between some clans, and I had planned it out. And I was just about to get it done. I had one thing left to do, and the Berkeley group showed up and visited, and they got into some kind of conflict with our group, or the group that was the San Francisco group, and it just ruined everything. Like there was like a couple of big, like not fist fights, but just big fights, and everything stopped. People started things over, and by the time everything was said and done, my chance to do carry out my plot was like totally foiled. Oh God, I was so upset about that because I mean they were just visiting. They weren't even part of our group, It just but they were a bunch of weirdos. They really were. I mean, we were weirdos too, but they were like more weird. If that makes sense.
I don't know. You can't really call weird until you see Bryce and I and Fez's being the Shriners of Lilith, staring at candles to see who could be the most mopiest at Goth Club. So,
hey, I'll rock a Fez any day, bro. I love Fezes, man. I totally rock a Fez. Let me know when you guys. Matter of fact, Bryce, one time when I took hey Bryce, remember when we went to El Mansour? I took you there. You rocked the Fez that time. He showed up with the Fez, man, in a wool overcoat with the Fez. It was great, man. He totally fit the scene. It was awesome.
All right. Well, on that note, we are going on.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to drag
No, it's not your. No, definitely. We're starting at 9, so this is kind of happens when you start at 9. But anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and do our down. So Dana, stay on to say goodnight to everyone. But
yes, sir.
All right. So anyway, that was another episode. We bitched about White Wolf. We talked about Spider-Man and talked about Traveler, which
I still got the Storyteller's Guide to Vampire, man.
Yep. No, I somewhere in my basement in my archive, I had way too much stuff, but I love books. But anyway, so JC, you can find me at Grindhouse Media on Twitter. You can do a search for my real name, James Carpio, on DriveThruRPG to find all the freelance stuff and other fun things that I've done over the past 20 years. Buy our stuff, Solarian Games. Buy Top Secret. We need you to buy Top Secret because it's a cool game, and we're putting out modules for it too. So buy. Bryce, anything you want to say before you go?
God, I'm trying to think of any shows that need to be showed, but nothing right now. Nope. It was a great time tonight.
All right, Terry.
Find me on Amazon. Buy some books.
There we go. Buy some books. And Dana.
Hey, thank you for having me on, James. I much appreciate it, brother. I wish I could have gone earlier, but either way, I appreciate you, man. I support you fully. Hey, all you guys out there, even though it's not gaming, coming soon. New Country Guys, Anchor Punch Boxing News. Check out my boxing channel. It's going to be on YouTube eventually.
Woo!
And so when it does, I'm going to be bringing you boxing news. So come check it out, man. You'll find me buzzing around James and Bryce and Terry all the time. So I'm never far. Have a great night.
All right, man. And give me the link to that when you have it, and I will make sure that we post it. And with
Yes,
that
sir. Thank you.
said, we have to say goodnight to everyone who is watching the show. Sweet dreams and lollipop forests.